um, trying to see how you can work with Docker, run some work, and how we can build a Docker image. Right. I just realized that I have another technical hiccup because our containers seems not to be working, and I had an image built from that as part of our tutorial. We may have just to tab through the commands. But in the meantime, we can just have a recap and just continue from where we stopped and cover these key aspects. So we did say that you can stop a Docker container using Docker stop command, and you give it your container ID, which, if you've forgotten what it is, you can always get it by running Docker PS. Okay, and it'll give you the container ID. You copy it and you run it. That's the key there. So we did say that when we're working with Docker, we're sort of in a sandbox, and it really is a separate environment that's running on top of your host OS operating system, and you don't have access to that sandbox. We want to do something more productive, so we need to have a way to communicate between those two systems. So this is usually not so novel for people who've been on Unix, Linux systems, and for a long time, because right now we're so used to, if you have a flash drive or an external drive, you plug it in your system, and it just registers on the file system. Okay, but often that is not often the default, and has not always been the default. So if you're in sort of a Unix terminal and you're missing the drivers for loading your flash drive, which is an external storage, we have this concept of mounting it. And actually, when you look, if you're on a Unix platform and you plug in your USB drive or an external drive, you can always go to either /volumes, and you see it there, or /media in some instances, and you see your drive there. Okay, and if it's missing, you can always mount it. Literally, give your operating system instructions and tell it that this additional space, this additional drive is not part of the system. Just mount it, okay, so that you make it visible to your operating system. So that is the same concept here. So you're in a sandbox, and literally you could think of your container really as something of a USB drive or something that you don't really have access to. And therefore, we need to have a way to communicate. We need to have a way to load our files onto the container so that the container have access and they can act on it. And sometimes the other way around. Your container, for example, we did see we have Galaxy running off the container. And obviously, because it's a web server, it is writing some files somewhere virtually. Okay, we're gonna try and see if we can have access to those files on our system, and maybe if we can even modify some aspect of that file. So the way this works, as stated here, by default, Docker containers cannot access data on your host system. And that's good. It means that if you're running off a host system and you're Docker, that instance has no access whatsoever to your host file. So that means you can't host the data in your containers, and all data stored in your container will be lost when the container exits. Okay. So whatever you do, and sometimes you're on your container, you may try and install things, and then it looks all that it's working. The moment you exit that container, those data are not persisted anywhere. They are lost together with the container. Okay, so for example, when I started, I gave an example of installing BWA from scratch of an Alpine basic container. And the moment I exited that container and I load it again, or I load a separate instance, it has no recollection. It's completely lost those data. Okay, so all that installed and whatever. But sometimes you may want to often run a task and get data written to your host system. So this can be solved in two ways. So there's the -v path in the host, right? So you provide the path to the host, and then you give the path in the container. So this is going to bind your host file on a directory in the container. Okay, so essentially, the container will be able to see this file. Okay, and you know, because of that, you're going to use what you call absolute paths. I don't know whether Peter talked about paths when we were doing our Linux. Linux has everything in Linux Unix is a file. It doesn't matter, you have this concept about folders, but folders really are files. Okay, and that also means that network things are also files. So everything in a Unix system is often a file. Okay, including byte volumes and so on and so forth. So there are two types of files. There's what you call absolute path, and there's the relative path. Okay, so absolute path are the entire sort of directly to where your file is contained, or whatever you make. I will use the word file. And it's often relative to the working directory. So you can have an absolute path relative, absolute to or relative to your working directory. Okay, and you can have the entire path relative to the operating system, for example. Okay. So because often you don't or might not know exactly the full path, if you just use the pwo command, you're going to find the path to where you are relative to root or home in some instances. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So if you look here, you want to use pwd, but because this is a function, we're going to quote it with those special single quotes, meaning that needs to be executed, and then some path which will be maybe where your data are stored. Okay, and the other way to load it is give the -v command, to give it the volume name, and then path in the container. And this is going to mount a named volume into the container, which will live separately from the rest of your files. Okay, which live separately from the rest of your files. So this is preferred unless you need to access or edit files from the host. Okay, so that's just another way. So you tell it, this is sort of the volume. This is the folder where I'm going to work from. So you're going to mount or load that volume to the operating system, so to the container. Therefore, the container is able to look at all. I will have access to everything that is contained within that folder. So they're using the volume. I think they're interchangeable in this case. So let's see an example. I borrowed this somewhere. So you need to store the log files for your Galaxy image on your host system using a bind mount. And we know that Galaxy stores its log files in /home Galaxy /logs. Now the question is, which command do you want to run? And there's a hint there. You might want to run your command. To run your system or your container, your image, to obtain the container in the detached mode. And once you've done that, you want to have your directly mounted into the container. So this is the example command. I think this command is missing the -p so that I can see my if I change things, I can see the log files. This will still work. Okay, so just some of them to multiply this command a little bit. Just do what we did earlier on, just so that we're able to see our Docker. Some of us may have to change that. And then I'll make this again. Yeah. So that will be a command. Let's maybe tab through that command and what it says. So we run Docker in a detached mode, not interactive. We do the port forwarding. We are forwarding port 80 on the container to port 80 on our host. And we're giving it a volume, yeah, which is Galaxy logs, which is mapped to the Galaxy logs on our container. Okay, so host, the volume that we want to mount, yeah, relative to where we are. Okay, that means that this Galaxy logs folder needs to exist in your local directory. Okay, and we're going to map that volume to the home Galaxy logs of our container. Okay, so what will happen is that those files will now be persisted on our environment. This means that we can modify some of these things and they will persist on the container. So the things are just getting more weird, is it? It's just becoming more complicated. So let's try see how we do that. Let's see if I got access to this. I'm just gonna do this. Yeah. So, a few things. Let me see if I can get this working live. Okay, so we are here, and I'm working from my home directory. Okay, I'm working from my home directory. But let's say I'll create a new directory here, simply because I have something already written up when I was testing this. I'm gonna call it test. Test Galaxy. For some reason I'll call it test Galaxy. And I'm gonna change to this Galaxy. Okay, and up there. Okay. I'm gonna create Galaxy logs. Yeah, Galaxy logs. Yeah. Okay. And if I do ls, okay, I can see my folder. And if I do pwd, I get the full path relative to it. Okay, so this is the absolute path where I'm located. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is the absolute path. And I'm going to execute the commands from this directory. I'm going to execute Docker from this directory. Okay, so I'm going to run. I'm going to try and do, I think, so the first thing I want to do, I'm going to check whether I have any instances by doing Docker ps. What's that running there? Okay, I got some container running. I'm trying to build something. For resources, let's just stop this container. How to Docker. Yeah. And now if I do my Docker ps, I don't have anything running. It's clear, so I may still have some dangling containers which I can remove with Docker remove. So, so let's execute this, and I'm gonna do Docker run d dash mode -p. I'm gonna map port 8 to port 80, and I'm gonna mount this volume, and I need to put this using the special, not command, but I'm gonna use that special character PWT to execute that bit /galaxy. Okay, there we go. So if I press enter on my keyboard, it just completes that path for me. Yeah. So I'm just gonna give the full path here, which is galaxy logs right there. I'm gonna mount that to /home /galaxy /logs. Okay. And I'm gonna upload my image, which will be or even better, I'm gonna try just copy pasting this. Okay, and if I run that, okay, it's working, but it has some issues because I'm on an ARM machine. Let's see whether that's running. Yeah, it looks like it's running. Okay. So I'll give it a bit of time to start up. And I think if I navigate to localhost, I should be able to see my new Galaxy. Oh, okay. Maybe I should just refresh this one here. Yeah, so refresh it. I'm just gonna click on things, random things, just so that I create some log files. Okay. So, if we are here and we looked at the Galaxy logs, you can see something happened. So let's do Galaxy logs -L. You can see that I got files now persisting in my directory. Okay? Because these files live on the container, but I'm mapping the Galaxy logs file to my machine, creating a path or access to those files. Okay. And if you want to see what these logs are, we can, if you use less Galaxy logs, maybe we look at there's a process file, the report, but it's handler 1, handler 2, slam. Let's look at the handler. Yeah. So you can see things are happening. Let me come fetch you. Okay. So just a show of hand. Who ran the previous command that it succeeded? Oh, sorry. I moved too quick. Yes. Alright, sorry about that. So let's have a look at that. So the command, I'm just gonna play my thing here. That's the one. That's what we should do in the first thing. Sorry, I went too quick. So PWT those fancy commands, they're supposed to ask you to show you where the working directory is, which gives you where you are relative to the root directory, okay, or relative to root, or the system. Another way to do it would just be to run, if you can't, I don't know, there's your different keyboards and keyboard styles, so those fancy things may not be visible or may not. Just do pwd and copy the path and then add it to where you've created that new directory. Okay? So maybe let me go back and take a step back. Let's see what I did here. Okay. Let's see what I put before. Let's see what I did here. It helps. Okay. So I started by, so you look at the very top. Okay, I started with a command. I created a directory called Galaxy Logs, right? No, well, I created a folder called Text Galaxy first. Okay, I started with that command, that folder. Okay, it's sort of within my workspace. That's where I want to execute this thing. So I created that, and I then created another folder called Galaxy Logs inside Text Galaxy. Okay, and then I did pwd print working directory. That was just to show me the path. Okay, and then I ran docker ps to just internally to see whether I got any images running or any containers running, because I may overwhelm the system and I may not have that much RAM. So if you have tons and tons of containers, remember, one, they're occupying disk space in terms of, within the Docker, whatever, but they're also taking your RAM away. Okay? So that's something to always be aware of. So I ran that just to see what containers. I realized I have a container that I was running and I don't need it, so I stopped it. And then I just ran docker ps just to show that, that command executed. And when that happened, I then ran the command that we want to run, which is this command here, -d -p, and I just typed a full path relative to where I was. Okay, I did do the pwd fancy thingy. I don't know what it's called. On a Mac, it's available on the escape keyboard, just below the escape keyboard. On your computer, maybe, yeah, that's the one. That's one. That's not the quotes. Okay, it's a different one. So you see it. It's usually no, not that one. Yeah, it's usually not the quote ones. Yes, it's this one. It's that one there. It's that one.
Yes, I created it. Yes.
Let me see the command. And are you running Docker? I see you running Docker too.
Yes, I'm running Docker.
Yeah, when you're here, is it the same place where you're running this? Is it the same directory? Because if you're not, then you do not find that one.
This is the directory.
Yes, but it's Docker running from text class. Okay, then that's a problem, because you don't have this. It's not running from the same. You get what I mean?
Yes, you have to run Docker and be in that directory.
Yes, or else you need to tell Docker when you're running that command, you modify it, okay, and then you tell it exactly where you're running from. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.